personal.
It's branding.
Thank you. So, good evening. I'm delighted to be with you. And I wanted to start off with some new information that the Commission on Women has been working on for the last two plus years. Some of you may know I'm the chair of the Commission on Women in the Profession for the ABA. Hillary was the first one, and there have been, I guess, 9 others since then. And one of the things that we noticed is that bias shows up in so many different ways for women that is different from men. There was a study that the ABA did, the Commission did several years ago, about 5 years ago, called Visible Invisibility, Women of Color in Fortune 500 Legal Departments. And I wanted to quote from that study because, unfortunately, it still remains relevant. Women of color bear the brunt of dual minority status in significant ways. They are the repository for every negative stereotype, bias, and low expectations associated with race, ethnicity, and gender. More than any other group, their intellectual abilities and professionalism are routinely questioned and second-guessed, often in subtle and poorly understood ways that stereotyping, unexamined bias, and unearned privilege are expressed. So women of color will tell you as a result of this, they don't have as much access to networks. They feel they get unfair performance reviews, that the policies around promotions are less than transparent. They get paid less, and they simply can't find mentors and sponsors. In an article published this year, 2017, it is reported that 85% of minority female attorneys will quit large law firms within 7 years of starting. But there's an even more interesting stat. They did a survey of people that joined firms within the first 3 months, and what they found is that if they don't get the love within those first 3 months, they start planning their exit, even if it's 5 years later. That is, can I boost my resume, get my street cred, and then may I leave? Carla Harris at Morgan Stanley once asked, well, why does diversity matter? Who cares? And the way she explained it resonated with me, and is one of the better explanations because it's clear and it's short. She says everybody is striving for innovation. There's no one around that says I'm going to be like I was and go out of business. That if you want innovation, you need new ideas. If you want new ideas, you need new perspectives. If you want different perspectives, you need different experiences. And to have those, you need diversity. So when you look at bias, and most of you have heard about bias, if you haven't, it's probably because you've chosen not to. It's a large body of scientific research that has shown that the natural human process of categorizing like objects results in cognitive biases that can result and perpetuate individuals' implicit reliance on these associations. So what's an example? All tall black men play basketball. All Asians are good in math. Some of those might resonate with a few of you. And so if you think you don't have bias, then you haven't gotten the memo that you die. There is no one that doesn't have bias. And it's simply that you can't always predict how it's going to show up. So the ABA did this research and decided to figure out ways to interrupt bias. But what I want to share with you this afternoon is if you look at the 4 patterns of gender bias, and I'll give you the 4 and then give you the results of the survey that we did, 3,000 people responded. There's Prove It Again, which says that if you're a minority, you've got to work twice as hard, or a woman, twice as hard in order to be seen as equally competent. The tightrope. You're too feminine, so I love you, but I probably don't respect you. Or you're a little masculine, I respect you, but I surely don't like you. Pick which one you want. The tug of war. And this is seen as conflicts among women in organizations. Sometimes it's been referred to as the queen bee. What I will tell you is that that syndrome results in conflict among women being caused by gender bias within the institution. And then finally, there's the maternal wall, or as my friend once said, I had a baby, not a lobotomy. Women of color experience these patterns of gender bias differently from white women or white males. The study, again, we sent it out about a year ago, and it was organized by these patterns of gender bias, and I want to share some of the findings because these are statistically significant. One of the questions was, I have to prove myself over and over again to get to the same level of respect and recognition as my colleagues. White men said this only happens to them 28% of the time. Women of color, 63%. Big disparity. I feel I'm held to higher standards than my colleagues. White men, 35%. Women of color, 67%. My suggestions or ideas are respected. White men said absolutely, 91%. Women of color, 78%. In meetings, other people get credit for ideas I originally offered, sometimes called the stolen idea. That rarely happens to white males, 29%. Women of color, 51%. I have been mistaken for administrative staff, custodial staff, or court personnel. 7% for white men, 58% for women of color. I'm seldom interrupted in meetings. White men said, no, it doesn't happen to me really. 64% said it doesn't happen. Women, 51%. So this survey goes on. We're going to publish the results of the survey in the fall. There are many other findings besides these. But I chose just to share some of these with you because I think they're pretty telling when you look at why people should be concerned about gender bias. So my point here is that organizations should focus on this. And the study that we're going to release will have toolkits that say, how do you interrupt the bias? Let me be clear, training is not enough. For you to show up at an hour-long program or even a half day, if someone insists, and then you return to your office and adopt the same behaviors that you've been doing for your last 50-plus years. It is very difficult to interrupt bias. And I say that for every single one of us. I'm not singling out just white males. Black females have bias. And so if you're going to do it, the institution has to figure out a way to aid you in that vein. But let's put the institution aside for a minute and go back to the title of what I wanted to talk about, which is, you really are in charge. It is true that it's a dual-sided coin when the relationship truly works, and I mean that the organization cares about you and you care about yourself. So what do I mean by you really are in charge? So I summarize it this way. I say, take stock, take credit, take risk, take a hand, take a stand, and take care. So let me go through those very quickly. So what do I mean by take stock? I guess if you're younger than I am, which is probably half the people or 90% of the people in this room. Okay, Mary Jo, not you.
Oh, wait a second.
Okay.
I don't know.
You're not going to card me either. And so what do I mean by when you take stock? I would say be woke. Do you understand how people see you? Do you understand what your weaknesses are? Do you understand what your strengths are? Do you know what your priorities are? No one should be able to answer those questions more convincingly than you. And that's what I mean by taking stock. Take credit. To me, this is a two-way street. You take credit and you get credit. Women sometimes are accused of not being willing to boast or simply advertise what they are all about. That is shameful, and it is not, to me, arrogant if it is done the correct way. By that same token, I've seen people who steal ideas, like in those meetings we talked about, and can't remember the person they got it from. That's highly unlikely. If you want to be a leader, one of the best ways that you can garner support is to give recognition for those that are helping you. When I say take risk, I mean take reasonable risk. I'm not asking you to be rogue, but I'm asking you to be strategic about the risk that you take. And if you understand what your weaknesses and strengths are, you should be able to make intelligent choices. One other study I want to refer you to. So if you go to the website for the Commission on Women, there is a toolkit on grit. And what grit says, it is a better predictor of how successful you are when you talk about taking risks and whether you can withstand failure. We all have failure. And grit says that you persevere, you're in it for the long haul, and you have a growth mindset. If you take risks, you are going to be nervous. Newsflash, growth and comfort are not compatible. Just understand that, get used to it. So what do I mean by take a hand? You're looking for mentors and sponsors. You need them, particularly people of color. When someone is invested in you, it makes a big difference. If you have some place to go to say, am I crazy today, or is it the other person? We all have those conversations when you want to close the door and do a sanity check, as I call it. Those are extremely important. And so you need a board of directors almost made up of different types of mentors. My mentors were all white males. I was not going to find a black woman with no hair. I guess I could have called you. You had to be born. And so I say to you, look for people who are different than you are, because you will learn that much more from them. The critical thing of that relationship is you've got to have trust. So if I'm not going to coddle you, you can't dismiss me because you think I don't have your back. So your advice isn't the advice I want to hear because I don't really trust your advice. Then get out of the relationship. I'm not going to go into whether the relationship should be formal or organic or informal, but I am telling you that mentors matter, and sponsors are even better. A mentor can be in the closet. A sponsor needs to be on the table. This is a person who is publicly going to attest, as Hamilton would say, when you're not in the room. They're going to say, well, I disagree with you. I think this person is ready. Or that she has the potential to do this, and we ought to give her a shot. You can't make those arguments when you are not there. So sponsors matter. When I talk about take a stand, know what your ethics and your values are. There are things that are negotiable, those aren't. And so if it's important to you, figure out a way to navigate it so that you don't feel compromised or diminished or rejected and ignored and marginalized. You need to be smart about it. It may mean that you use an ally to make the point. It doesn't mean you've got to go in front of the propeller blade every time. That may be suicidal. But there are ways to do it. And when I talked about grit, grit comes in here when I say take a stand. The reason I believe it's important to develop grit is that it gives you the options as to what you do or don't do. If you don't develop muscle, you don't have the choice to lift. And then I talk about take care, the final one. Many people will say, well, I'll take care of myself, when I get around to it. And then they die. So I'm talking about taking care of yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually, financially. Take the time to do it. Whatever gives you your headspace so that you don't lose what sanity that is precious to you, do it. If it's a massage, if it's going out to eat, if it's getting with friends, you pick. But find a way to clear your head and, again, to take care of you. And I'll end with financial because some people get really careless about the financial. It is hard to make up time. Ask compounded interest that question. And so you are never too early to start looking at your financial health, once again, so you have the options. So I'll end with the words of Lorraine Hansberry because they resonate with me. Most of you may know that she was the playwright for A Raisin in the Sun. She died in her early 30s, but her impact is still felt even today. And when I read these words, I said, wow, this woman truly left this earth too soon. I care about it all. It takes too much energy not to care. The why of why we are here is the intrigue of adolescence. It is the how that must command the living, which is why I have lately become an insurgent again. Thank you.